The anxiety of going back to school, and now we want to address some of your concerns.
And joining us again, Dr. Sheela Raja this morning with the University of Illinois, and we asked parents what they are worried about with the start of the school year. So on Facebook, Sharmia asks, how can we get the kids and parents back on a healthy sleeping schedule? And we had talked about that a little bit earlier. What do you suggest?
I think we need to let go of the perfectionism. It is not going to be perfect on day one. And we need to just pull in some of our other routines, like maybe get an earlier meal time, start limiting screen time, and also maybe scheduling some fun activities after school starts. You know, not necessarily on weeknight evenings, but on the weekends, so that our kids don't go, oh, it's so terrible, summer's over, that's why I want to stay up late.
Sure.
On Facebook, Eileen wants to know if other parents are also worried about guns and violence at school.
That's a good question.
It's a good question. Yeah. It's a serious question, and unfortunately, for the first time in a long time now, parents are worried about school shootings, and they should be, quite frankly, because our gun violence rate compared to other industrialized nations is just too high, and our kids are paying the price.
So how do you talk to kids about that? I mean, little kids, I mean, do you just avoid it up to a certain age, or what do you suggest?
Well, unfortunately, we can't, because these days they're preparing them in terms of disaster drills. I think we have to be really realistic about our own children and say, if I have a child that's depressed or isolated, I need to reach out, you know, to friends, to family, to the schools. The American Academy of Pediatrics talks about screening kids for depression, for firearm safety. I think that's really important, and we need to keep our children safe and happy.
All right.
All good advice.
That's it. Dr. Raja will be here in our next half hour, too.
Yes.
So if you have questions at home, please let us know, because she's here to answer them for you. Thank you for that. School is still 2 weeks away, but
help make your kids a smooth transition into the school year is Dr. Sheela Raja from the University of Illinois. Good morning, doctor. We thank you for coming in today.
Good morning. How are you?
They're good. There's a lot of moms and dads out there that are just trying to ease their kids into it, you know. So I guess the first question is that, you know, we'll start with the younger kids. They're worried about being away from home and sort of finding their way around. Older kids worried about fitting in, some even getting bullied. Any advice on both fronts?
Well, for younger kids, you're right. They're often worried about being separated, their routine, and I love it when teachers have an open house ahead of time so kids can know what to expect. And if they don't have the open house, then, well, maybe they will now, but also maybe we can take our kids and, you know, get them into the routine and just take them back to the playground, show them around. But in terms of bullying and fitting in, it's also important for us to have these year-round conversations with our kids, right? It's never okay to put someone else down or demean them constantly, and it's never okay for someone to do that to you, and that it's not tattling or acting like a baby if you come to an adult and ask for some help or some coaching. They need us to help us.
I remember the first few days of preschool, it was more difficult for my wife and me than it was for our kids. I mean, they were ready. They're like, see you, Mom, see you, Dad, we're ready for school. What about for older kids? Because college can be stressful too, right?
Yes.
I mean, talk to us about some of the anxiety that they're feeling.
Absolutely. These kids are doing so much these days, right? And I think that it's up to us as adults to coach them on some balance. Every day has to be about a little bit of socializing, a little bit of academics, a little bit of screen time, a little bit of physical activity, because sometimes they lose that. And to tell them, you know, it's okay, you're in the same boat as other people. Sometimes they think they're the only ones up against this, and everybody has a really long to-do list, so you're not alone in this struggle.
Yeah.
This question might kind of go outside the scope of what you're talking about today, but what advice do you have for parents who are getting back into that routine, that sleep routine? I mean, they've been sleeping in all summer and not really having any sort of routine. Do you have any advice?
I think the best thing to do is worry a little less about it, because we're all going to be a little sleep deprived in the next couple of weeks. But the other thing is, try to change some of your other routines. So if the mealtime has, like, you know, if you're eating dinner at 8 o'clock, kind of scooch that back up to 6 o'clock again, put in a little bit of reading time as a family in the evening, cut back down to the 1 to 2 hours of screen time recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. You know, that stuff kind of gets out of hand over the summer.
Good stuff as always. Thank you again for coming in, and you're not leaving us, because we have 3 more segments with you. In fact, Dr. Raja will be back with us to talk about how you can become more involved with your students' homework, for example, without becoming a helicopter parent. Kind of swoop in and swoop back out, right?
There you go.
So we're looking forward to that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely.